Well, hello, this is Yvonne from the Fabric Hut. I thought we'd get together today and do a little video on chain piecing. I really enjoy doing chain piecing when I'm making multiples of the same block, and you can just get a whole lot done in a shorter amount of time. So let me show you how I've set up and what I have going for today. Okay, so when I'm doing a block, I really like to lay it all out so I can see what I'm going to be working with. This is the block we're going to be making today. Here's one that is done. I am just trying to use up some of my scraps and things that I have on hand. So I thought this would be a really good way to show you how I do chain piecing with both triangles and 4 patches. So I'm going to move it off to the side. Well, first, before I move it off to the side, now that you kind of see how it's laid out, I'm going to take and stack. I'm going to start here and I'm going to just flip these guys over on all of my 4 patches so that they're ready to go. Now, if I were doing a number of blocks, I would have a stack of browns and a stack of greens as high as I needed for all of them. Greens. That's blue. I don't know why I said green, except that, I'm old and crazy, and that's all. Okay, so I'm going to get all of those put together and ready to go so I can just pick one up and go with it. Okay, and then I'll do the same with these guys. I will flip over one side of them and just make a stack. My intent is to make everything that sews the same direction in a stack where I can just go from one to the next to the next. So I have this stack of triangles, and I'm going to start with those. And then I have my browns and blues. Okay, now I'm going to set that back aside. Alrighty, so we're going to get started. I'm going to start with the triangles because these tend to need a press in between. So I'll sew through these, and then once I start these, I can take this off and press it and then continue. So these are just pre-cut blocks that I had in my stash. I love the pre-cuts. Fabric Hut is great at pre-cuts. It just makes everything go so much faster. So take the time to prep ahead of time, and then your sewing is going to go so quickly. All right. So there we go. I have my guide foot on. I know this is a 1/4 inch. I've moved my needle to where I know my 1/4 inch on this machine, and I'm just going to go. And I will sew through all 4 of these. If I were doing any more than 4, I'd do a couple and then turn off the camera, but I'm only doing 4, so bear with me while I do them. 2, 3, and 4. Now, chain piecing, like I say, it is one of my favorite tips because you can just get so much done. And with some of the little tricks I'm going to show you, you won't get anything turned the wrong way. Okay, so those are done. Now, I'm not going to take them out of there. I'm going to leave them right where they are and put in the next set of blocks. Now, this one is for my 4 patch. So when you're doing a 4 patch, I'm going to lay these back out again. When you're doing a 4 patch and you fold them over, you're going to have one color on the top and then the opposite color on the top of the second one. Now, when you chain piece a 4 patch, this is one of my wonderful little tricks. Put it in, stop right at the edge of the fabric, but with the opposite color up, but it right up next to that one, like that, so that it will just take and grab it on without leaving a gap between them. And you're going to do that with all 4 of these sets. We're going to just see, now this one doesn't have to be pressed up so much because this is a separate block. So I leave a little gap there. But when I get to the end of that one, I'm going to press this one with the dots up, right up behind it, as so. All right. So I'm going to finish these up and I'll be right back. Okay, so one of the real benefits of chain piecing is see how I've left this one on so that my machine doesn't get that little blurb at the beginning where the thread kind of balls up underneath. It's going to keep it nice and snug for me as I put these in. Now, one of my favorite tools is this one's called a gizmo, but you can get all sorts of varieties that have a blade right in there. There's some that are designed to use your used rotary blades. So, and you just go like that and just pop them apart. Now I'm only doing these. I'm not going to do these quite yet because they're waiting for me to go through the second round of this one. With a triangle and a point, I am going to give it a little finger press, and then I'm going to take it over to my ironing table and actually press it before I go on, because this point right here, if you don't get it pressed out nicely and you put the next one on, you're going to lose your point sometimes. And so pressing is just so important for a nice, accurate quilt. So I have them all kind of finger pressed, but I'm going to just rotate the camera over here, see if I can get it where, okay, we can use right here on the ironing board. I love my little iron. When you're pressing, set the seam, and then let your iron do the work for you. And just start at a point, set the seam. Oh, I'm too far down, sorry. Set the seam, put your iron in and let it catch this corner and roll that corner over. And then you just go straight up. And that's going to keep from stretching anything because these are bias edges, so you don't really want to stretch them. So you're going to set, catch the corner, and then just straight up the block. If you go this way, that's when you're going to stretch your bias, but you're going this way, so it's not. All right, point in, and then straight up. And we've got all 4 of those pressed. Now we're going to take our other 4 pieces that were still over here on our ironing board and come back over to the sewing machine. And we will continue right on sewing, putting these guys on here. Now this is the strangest block. I always want to put the fat part up there. It seems like fat should go to fat, but it doesn't. It goes this way. So lining up this corner, and we're just going to sew this side. Okay. All righty, those 4 are all sewn. At this point, I'm going to take my chain again, and I'm going to cut off between the triangles and the squares. Now remember we did every other square a different color? Well, I did these in the opposite row, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to cut apart every 2 squares. I'm going to leave this one that we had butted up together really close. I'm going to leave that. So I'm going to cut apart there, and there, and there. Okay. Now, what we're going to take these, and this, whereas I took these to the iron mid place, these I'm going to just finger press, and I'm going to press them all to the blue. It's the darker of the 2 colors, so you're going to press it towards the dark, go to the dark side, just like that. And I'm going to just press all of them out really quickly here with my finger. I use my fingernails, and it just kind of does enough to get me a nice crisp point at the center. I'm not real worried about the whole thing yet, but I do want that center to be a nice tight point. Okay. Well, my hands aren't working all that great today, so it seems a little slow, but there we go. And one more towards the blue. Now, because I put this one in with the brown one first, it really doesn't matter, because when it's all done, I'm just going to turn it and it'll be the same. So it doesn't matter if you get one in the wrong direction. All right, so I have them both pressed towards the blue, and I have this short stitch right there that has them hooked together. Now, this one I didn't get real tight, so I have a little bit of play, but because you have that stitch right there, it will automatically pull that seam together and nest right there so nicely that you don't even have to work very hard to get it nested. So you're going to get it together and then feed it right on in after your triangles. Just like that. Again, there's my little tiny seam right there in the middle. Just fold it over and, whoop, I didn't press that to the blue. I pressed it to the brown. So just fix it and nest them. See what I mean by nesting? I'm going to flip it around so you can see this on this side. See how the seams are folded out each to the blue? I can take, this is a high side here and this is a high side here. I can just push them together, and by rubbing my fingers back and forth, it will just hook them really, really close together to where when you fold it back, you have a perfect point right here. Isn't that cool? So, got this side nested, going to sew it through. That's the one that, or this is the one that was the wrong way, so now it looks like I'm doing it wrong, but I'm really not. And nest this one. And see how quickly that worked when they're nice and tight? I always keep my finger on the nest until it goes into the foot. And then I will move down here. And if I have to adjust just a little bit for the perfect seam, then I come down and pinch that. And the last one. All right, now remember we're chain piecing, so we're not dealing with that little ball of thread, right? Well, we're at the point with our triangles that we don't have anything else we have to do with them. So what do we do when we want to go on? Well, you can just cut your thread and start the next thing. But however, these are 1.5 inch squares. I have a white, some sort of white. Sometimes they have glitter, sometimes they have little dots, and a color. And I just put one of these in as a placeholder, like this. There we go. And now I can come up here and cut. Oops, sorry, bumped the phone. There we go. It's like taking a cruise ship with me, isn't it? Okay, and now I can just cut these all apart. Again, getting out my little gizmo here. And just cut them all apart. Boop. Now I leave this one, right in there until I'm ready to sew again. All right, everybody is cut apart. Now we're going to come back over to the ironing table, and I'm going to readjust you just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now we have these 4 patches. And when you press these, see how nicely that point is? I mean, it's like exact. I love that. But now how do we press this? We could press it all to one side, and that would be okay. But depending on the pattern you're doing, if you have a whole bunch of 4 patches and you press to one side, sometimes the seam isn't going the way you want it to. So if we instead spin this seam, now in order to spin the seam, remember we had that little loop of thread there? We've got to cut that. So you just take your seam ripper, get in here with my seam ripper, and just pop that little thread. And now you can push the right side, push it back, and the left side pull it towards you, and you end up with this itty bitty little 4 patch right there in the middle. See that? That's called spinning your seams. And we're going to just push this again, kind of little. I'm running my finger up the back of it to kind of finger press it. This one I'm coming down to kind of finger press it. And I got my thumb right there on that little join. I'm going to just turn it over now. Get back to the ironing board. There we go. Now you can see me. And you can feel that the seam is going towards me here. All the way around, the seam is going that way. So I'm going to run my iron in a circle right around like that, because that seam is going that way. Now, if this is, one of them is going to go the opposite way of the rest. So again, we're going to take our seam ripper and just kind of run it through there and pop, well, it's not usually this hard, and pop that little stitch. There we go. Open it up, push the top one back, pull the bottom or the left one down, and kind of finger press them flat on your ironing table, and circle your iron in the direction that the seams are going. Now, I know that's not pressing, press and lift, press and lift, but this is not a bias piece, so that you're not going to stretch anything by rotating around. Okay, I'll do those other two in a minute. Here we have our triangle pieces. Again, we're going to set the seam, put our point of our iron in. Oh, get it. There we go. Put the point of our iron in and then slide straight up. And there it is. Without being, well, I didn't get that one. I didn't get it very well because I put the iron in on the wrong side. So, okay, I got that one fixed, but let me show you. Again, if you put your iron on this one, hold it, and then pull it towards you, it's going to iron that out nice and flat without stretching it. Okay, got those all ironed, and we just have two more of these little guys. Cut my little string there. Cut my little string here. Spin that little seam. Whoop. It just looks so cute. If you're doing this with like a pinwheel, you'll end up with a little pinwheel here. So that's how you know that you've done it right, is if this little area looks the way you want the whole thing to look. And my seams are going away from me this time, so we're going to go that way. And the last one. Okay, and this one, the seams are coming towards me. So that was the one that I put in the funny way. But because I'm spinning seams, it will all work out the same. Okay, now we have all of our pieces. And we are going to relay out our block. But I like to do it over here on my sewing machine. There's our center. Here are our corners. And this is where you can play. If it's a pattern of your own making, or even if it's not, this is where you can play and decide if you want it to go this way. I decided I wanted the browns to be across. Okay, and then I want a star, so the point has to go in. So I get a star. And just lay them all right back out. Okay, so we're almost done with our block. We have chain pieced. We still have our little space holder over here. Now it's time to put this all together. And again, we can do this in a chain piecing manner. What I do is I start with the center block, fold it over top the left-hand block, get the center, and put it over there, and this one over here. Okay, I'm going to just kind of push these over. What I'll do now is I'll take this top one, and I will get it lined up. Get my phone. There we go. We're back where we need to be. I'll get it lined up, and I will sew down this side all the way to the bottom. And again, I'm going to chain piece, so I'm going to take this one, and because I flipped center over, I know I'm going to be sewing on the right-hand side. Line them up. Now, again, I'm going to butt it right up there, so I don't have much of a gap there. Put on, and the last one. Line it up, And okay, now I don't want to cut my threads again because I'll end up with that little knot. So I'll take another one of these little doohickeys and just put it right in there. And sew most of the way through and just snip right here. Okay, now this one, oh, dropped it. This one right here will get cut off. And I have a little box over here that I just store them in. And someday I'm going to have, well, I have a plan for them. I'll tell you my plan in a little bit. I'll show you my plan. So then we can just lay this back out. Now, at this point, you can stop and press if you'd like, but you don't necessarily have to because these seams aren't reliant on that press seam. So then you'll just flip from right to left again. And sew the final seam on the verticals. Get that out of my way. And just go. I watch, make sure my seam is going up the way it's supposed to. This one, the seam, there's no seam underneath, so you don't have to worry about it. You just get it on there and go. But watch here. I like having this point on top because then you can see where you're at and you can see where your seams come together right there. You know that that's the point you want to hit with your needle to get a perfect point here. So I'm keeping track. There it goes. Got just darn close to that. Maybe one stitch out from that point. And there's the last one. Okay, grab another piece over here, feed it in. Come through, cut that one off. Take this one off and throw it in my box. And now I have all of the vertical strips sewn. I will turn it this way. Now, which way are we going to press this? When you're pressing, a point is always going to be a bulkier seam. So if you can press away from a point, more's the better. So I'm going to press these here towards the center so that the points don't have to be folded over. And that makes these going out so it's not folding over that point. And I'm just finger pressing. You could take it to your iron and press it for really securely if you want, but it's just this little point that has to be really good at right now. So we'll just get those. And when you use your fingernail, it gives a pretty good crease. All right, so then we'll fold this over, match up our seams. I'm going to nest this little seam. Remember, we want this to lay flat right there. So nest that little seam and continue on. Once I get there, I'm going to stop and nest this one. Now, if you are a pinner, feel free to pop a pin in. The other thing you can use, and I use oftentimes, are my little clips. They are fabulous. I'll show you how I would, on this side, I'll show you how I prep with that. And match up this point. We are good to go. Another little saver here. And pop that off. Take this one off. Okay. So now there's one side. See, we're still getting really good matches on our points because we're nesting it carefully. And now we're going to finish this side off. All right. So with the clips, if I want to work ahead, I nest this one and I pop a clip right on that little nest. Get another clip. Again, we will nest it up. Even though it has that little chain in there, you still sometimes have to work a little bit. Nest it up, pop a clip on the nest, and you're ready to go. Now, if you were doing a whole row, of a 90-inch row, you would have a lot of little pins there, and it just or clips, and it makes it so easy. Stop and take that out. Make sure everything's lined up. Now, still feeling with my finger to make sure that that seam is still nested well. And then realign. And we have just finished our block. Now, do I need to put in another holder? Not really, but I do, because then it's all ready for the next time I start sewing. The next block, whatever, I don't have to worry about the thread getting sucked up and making a little knot. So there we go. Now on this one, I don't think, I wanted to say that I left a spot where I could show you, oh, right here. See how my thread is all kind of bunched up right here? That's what my machine does when I don't have the little extra piece. It gives this little knot of thread, and it just annoys me. So that's why I do that. All right, so we're all ready. Time to press it out. It looks a little crooked right now, but once we press it, because I only finger pressed, so once I press it, it's going to be smooth and ready to go. Okay, for my final press, I give it a quick press, and then I do mist it and give it a good press with a little bit of mist on it so that it stays nice and flat. And then another little fun trick is, once you have pressed with a little steam, if you put it under your wool pressing mat and let it cool there, and typically I do my next block, and by the time my next block is done, I pull it back out, and it is perfectly flat and ready to be used in a quilt. I love chain piecing. I think it is a fabulous technique. All sorts of fun things you can do with that, make it go faster. Now, remember these little squares that I was using as my beginners and enders? See right here on this quilt? That's from the last box of them that was sitting next to my machine. On these, I didn't use a white one. They were just 4 squares, any squares. I would make 2s, and then let me get this over here. Then eventually I'll take my 2s and iron towards the dark side, just like we did with the block. And I will have a stack of these sitting next to my machine to use as my beginners and enders. So it's just making an extra little piece of a quilt. While you're making your project, it gives you just a little bit extra that you can use for so many things. So thank you for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can always send a message to customercare@thefabrichut.com. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.